I, this is the regular monthly meeting of the Dayton Development and Industrial Commission. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the town YouTube channel. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. The Zoom meeting ID is 852-4143-6181, passcode 732368, phone number 929-205-6099. So everyone could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda, we had discussed at the last meeting, actually we discussed almost a year ago, the idea of marketing campaigns that we wanted to do for the town. And Lenny had brought up the idea of incorporating drone footage. So at the time, our budget was a bit limited, but this year with our fiscal budget, we wanted to look into that again. And Jonathan reached out to contacts at Bridgewater State, who put us in touch with Joy Brooks, who's here this evening. So we did want to talk with her about what we were looking for, whether she'd be able to help us with that, some ideas about where we might be looking to have some drone footage done, and also what the cost would be. I had circulated, I'm not sure if I printed it off with me this evening, a list of sites that I had sent. Do you have it by any chance, Joy? Or you don't?
On my laptop.
Okay, I have it on my email. I'm just going to look it up real quickly. I had sent it to everybody on the committee to solicit some feedback for potential sites that we might be looking for video footage, knowing that our purpose is really to highlight commercial activity, business opportunities in town, but also just the general flavor, natural resources of the town as well. So I'm just going to call this up so I can read off what are the suggestions that I had put back, and these are suggestions only. So here we go here.
Excuse me,
Yes.
would you like me to share my screen? I've got it
Oh,
up.
you have that up in front of you? Sure. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I'm disabled from screen saving, whichever is easier for you, Dan. I mean, if you want to allow me, or if you want to just do your thing, just do your thing. That's fine.
All right. I don't quite see how to make the host, make a co-host. I think if I make you a co-host, you might go to
Okay.
the screen. Yeah, just try that.
Nope, unfortunately, nope.
Okay.
Oh,
So I'll
yep,
just
got
read
it.
off.
Got it. I've got it.
Oh, okay.
And
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So the places I had suggested were Charles Boatyard. I don't know if you're familiar, how many of these, if any, in town you are, Joy.
I haven't spent much time in Dayton.
Okay,
But before I would come to take any footage, I would come in and check out. the
Okay.
sites, be familiar with them.
okay. One, it's a marina here in town.
Mhm,
General views along the Taunton River,
mhm.
which goes through the town, dividing it with Berkeley. The Dayton Berkeley Bridge, which is a bit, I wouldn't say it's historic because it's rather new, but it's a landmark in the town, very attractive. We do have an old mill in the town, which has a lot of businesses in there at 620 Spring Street. So it's an old factory,
Mhm.
but actively being used. The Dayton Power Plant, which is just, from a aerial perspective, it looks a little more attractive than it probably does close up, but it just, but it is, it is a large industry in town. We have a section of town along County Street, which is about a third of a mile long. That just has a lot of businesses in there. So we might want to get some footage in there. We have several farms. One of our members is owner of Arugio Farms here in town. And so we would probably want to get some footage of one of those farms, perhaps her farm. We have several horse stables in town, which I thought would be, we could find somebody to work with as well. And some of these may lend themselves more towards the spring, summertime.
This is Catavia too.
Yeah. And then, I just said to round it off, there may be things that other people have thought of that I haven't, that, you might want to throw out there for suggestions.
The Dayton Community Church.
Dayton Community Church, yes, which is now our town library. Oh, that one.
The one on Elm Street.
Oh, the one on Elm Street, the Dayton Community Church. Okay.
The new library is the Smith Memorial Hall.
Smith Memorial Hall. Okay. So yeah, that would be another good one as well. It's a historic church here in town. Before we talk about like what would be involved, did people have some questions for Joy about her experience? You are a student at Bridgewater State, taking or having completed a drone certification course. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a program that has us in 4 different classes. The first one was the FAA regulations to get the license, which I did and passed. You can have a copy of that on file because you can only do commercial work with the license.
Oh, okay.
So that was class number 1, and then there was applications for mapping. And then a class that I'm waiting to take in the spring is just the internal mechanism of the drone and creating one from scratch. So that'll be fun.
Interesting.
To that. So I am already licensed to do commercial work. We did field projects all through the different classes. Agricultural field work. Some of the bogs in Middleborough would go out and take aerial footage of those. Several residential. None of these were commercial projects where we could make money because we were students and weren't licensed yet. So I've had a lot of fun flying the drones. It's great. And the cameras that are on the drones now are amazing. I have a Mavic 3, which has a Hasselblad camera on it. One of the highest camera qualities you can get. I can film in 12 megapixel for photography and 4K for video.
Great.
So it the footage comes out pretty awesome. It's a pretty steady camera. So there's not a lot of jostling. The footage comes out very smooth. So
Do you have any samples you could send us of
I can.
a clip? Okay.
Sure.
Would it be small enough you could send it in an email, or do you have it posted any place we could go look at it?
Yeah, I will. I have it on disk.
Okay.
So, I'll definitely upload it and send it in a file to you.
Okay, all right, just so we could see what the quality looks like, and that
Sure.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
And the I was gonna say in terms of what we've been talking about, I think most people agree probably a spring, summertime is what we'd be looking for the best use of that. I mean, a winter scene of the river, could be attractive, and the bridge in winter, might be nice too as a variation, but I think for the most part, we'd be looking at least some greenery for most of these sites. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Everything looks great from up in the air.
Okay.
I want to get it too close.
Dayton does have a lot of foliage, so my only concern is it's so green, you may not be able to see some of the stuff, but I mean, it depends upon, different sites, so.
Do you think the horse farm would be a pretty scene to capture with snow or any of the?
Hey, I'm on a meeting.
That sounds, that certainly sounds feasible.
Mhm.
I don't actually have anybody in particular that I've spoken to.
Mhm.
I just know that we do have several stables. So maybe, we can start reaching out to them and,
I think the town clerk, Mark Pacheco, I think he has a horse stable, I believe. Mark Pacheco. He has a stable.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that.
he
My
does.
aunt has a beautiful stable down on Julian's Way as well. I can ask her.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We would just want to get permission because some of these, would be.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Property and,
Take drone shots of Without.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'll look into where you said it was a power plant. So I'll just need to make sure I can film near there. There's just sometimes regulations for
Oh, okay.
near places like that.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
I'll look into that.
Okay.
But that's the only one I would foresee there being any issue with. I'm sure Dayton has some airfields. So if any of these were near an airfield, I'll just need to get previous approval from the airports to be able to
I
film.
think closest, I don't, Taunton has a airstrip probably, I'm guessing, or a private one. I don't know where it's
Is
located.
Myrick's recognized? The
Um,
Myrick's Airport?
They all are, and so there's, for when the planes are coming in landing, that's where I have to just check. There's apps that I can go on and get approval from, to make sure that I can fly within regulations.
Correctly, has an air.
I don't think there's any airport in
Yeah,
Dayton.
No? Okay, that'll make
and
it easier.
I know that you and Jonathan had gone back and forth a little bit as far as the estimated cost.
Mhm.
But you had put forward a cost of approximately $75 per site.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, which, certainly fits within our budget.
Okay.
Just curious about how much time do you have to spend per site to get, and how much footage are we looking for? Like a couple minutes from each site of good footage. I mean, a couple minutes. It's all going to be raw footage
Yeah.
that we plan to use later and edit appropriately. And obviously, we're not making a movie. We're just, making marketing. So
Yeah.
I would think 2 to 3 minutes of really high quality, good footage of any one of these sites is really all we're looking for. That'd be a true statement.
Just trying to think of, when you do this,
Mhm.
do you do it and then cut back as if we need to? In other words, I don't know how to
Edit.
put
Edit.
it. I'm really good with technology, can you tell? So,
I take the footage and then it will probably be sent to someone who can edit out what they
Yeah.
want from that footage. to
okay,
use.
that's,
Yeah, and that's something that Serpent has said they could help us with down the road if we get to that point. So,
I was planning on every site doing a left to right sweep and then a right to left sweep. A few different angles from different heights, different altitudes. You can do a 30-degree angle that will look nice coming in head on, but then also being directly above and looking straight down, and capturing a few still photographs from each of the sites as well.
sounds very good. Yeah.
Dan, if you don't mind, I have a quick question. So, the Spring Street Mill, that's a pretty large complex, right? And it's got the park on the North Dayton side, and it's got the river on the other side. And it would be really nice to get, I don't know, a big overview of that complex. It's pretty big. I wonder if Joy, we should send her the address of that. Well, you've got it. It's 620 Spring Street in Dayton, and have a look at how big that is and see, especially that, and also the agricultural school, which is again a pretty big site. You know what I mean? How would that work?
As far as taking footage of it,
Yeah.
It's super easy to I can send my drone up about 300 feet, which is going to
Okay.
capture a lot of ground footage. So I can go up as needed to get as much footage from the ground that you need.
Okay, and can you fly around it? So say you're on the street in front of a factory. Does your drone always have to be within eye contact, or can you fly that thing, like around the other side of a building?
No, I have to always be able to see it.
Okay,
And I can fly circles, I can navigate the drone so that you pick a point of interest in the center and then just tell it to fly the circle. So it'll be a very smooth, perfect circle around, but because of regulations, it is something I have to always have an eye line
I see.
Which
drone.
might lend us to like talking to the landowner, property owner and saying, is there access to the roof? Could she get up there today And so she could do exactly what you're suggesting, but and keep it in eye line at the same time. So
There might be even a chance that they will allow her up on the roof of the building where she can
right.
take the entire property
Yeah.
that way.
Mm.
And
Are you looking for a circle around the building at, so that the roof wouldn't be seen? Because as long as the drone is slightly above the building, I can still have it in my line of vision the whole time. But if
Okay,
you were looking at something a little higher than ground level, then I would probably need to be above it, I guess.
okay. No, I think we're talking about you flying over the building and
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So I mean, I guess if you're far, the building is what, 3 stories, Dan, is the mill?
Yes.
oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's pretty.
Some areas are.
Mhm.
And it's a pretty big complex, so maybe if you were in the parking lot, it's a big parking lot, so maybe
Yeah.
if you were in like the corner of a parking lot, that way you would be able to see over the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It also has a clock tower.
Would we,
Huh?
what is
It
it?
has a clock tower.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it has a historic clock tower that we trying to get in the shot as well somehow. Go ahead.
would we also want to include some of the park and recreational areas like North Dayton Playground and maybe the trails?
Yeah, so that's why, I have that list of suggestions because just so you know, we are playing with a budget of $750. So at your estimate of $75 per site, that allows us 10 sites.
Mhm.
So we would just have to, unless we spill into next year's budget, which we don't really get until July rather. So, but working with what we have now, which is why we'd want to keep it to 10 or less. So we can pair that, play with that list and see what we think is best in terms of parks, other things we don't want to do, or, that kind of stuff. Maybe the Dayton Power Company is
Maybe
not
she's feeling a little generous and she'll do an extra one.
Generosity is a good thing, so I am happy to take a look at the sites that you send over.
Okay. I don't think that we really wanted to vote on anything tonight in terms of, is he giving you an overview of, that's the complex, the mill.
This
Someone
is the,
area.
yeah, the mill complex here. And you'll see there's a river in the back here. It's a very large building, a lot of parking spots here. So maybe if you were to position yourself here, you could fly around this, around this thing. There's a park here. And so that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. I would probably circle the building and find the most visually attractive parts of it. To even fly around that at a speed that people wouldn't get dizzy watching would be a few minutes of video anyway, to do a circumference of the whole thing. So it would probably work better to find a few focal points of the building that look really nice and just highlight those areas.
Great. Good.
Yeah, as you-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
as you can see, we are really going to rely on your aesthetic and artistic eye to
Yeah.
put the,
That's the
I don't
fun
think
part.
we have the idea of how we would do that. So that is part of what we're, going to be asking of you is to help,
yeah.
look at the site and figure out this is the best angle, this is the best view. And
Yeah, so a view like that is good if you're really looking to know what the parking lot sizes look like, but is that what you're
No, it's
looking
more like
to
something just
capture the
capture-
beauty of the buildings?
exactly.
Yeah,
Of course, we would have to talk to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of the places we wouldn't want to take footage of a private property and then incorporate it into a town video without permission. And most of these you probably would need access, onto the property too. So, yeah. Did you have questions for us?
I think so. Just things I had written in the email about what time of year were you thinking?
Okay.
The capturing of the sites, just so I can be more familiar with where I'm going, sort of map out a route for even the day or a couple days that I come down. And then I could maybe after a snowstorm like this, if you were looking for any winter shots, just find those different sites and visit them. for some footage. But
So,
if it's all spring stuff that you're looking
Yeah.
for, then that's,
so I'll just put this out to everybody to throw in their thoughts. But this is how we operate, which is we do meet once a month.
Yeah.
We do have to come together as a committee to approve purchases.
yep,
So we don't decide tonight to approve something, it wouldn't be until the end of February that we meet again, and we could decide then. So it's always going to be at least a month time lag.
mhm.
So do people here feel like they want to authorize a limited number of sites and dollars towards this project at this point and we'd have to identify those sites for Joy? Or is this something we want to continue to think about because 80% of these are spring and summer items, and revisit this in February?
What is your target date to have a completed video?
We'd have to talk to Serpent, I think, because they're the ones, this is all raw footage.
Right.
And, really, it's edited footage put into a package as our end goal. But I think for Joy's part, I think we would probably want to have everything by, July timeframe, maybe. That spring, summer.
I'm
Like
just
within the
thinking
next
from
6
a budget point of view,
So,
as far as splitting it.
well, if we have 750 in our budget, if we did 10 sites, we could do it all this year before the next fiscal year.
Right.
If that's how we decide to allocate our funds for this year. Anybody interested in making a proposal that we can give Joy some direction this evening that has an approval with it, or do we want to think about this? I have a feeling maybe we want to think about this at least until February and revisit it and have a concrete list and a concrete idea of what time of the year we think would be best. And does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay, and there wouldn't be any need for you to really come back to this meeting unless you wanted to join via Zoom, for example.
Mhm.
But, Jonathan and you and I can just continue to talk via email.
Okay,
All right?
Yeah.
Anybody have other points they want to bring up?
I have a
Joining us?
business card.
Oh,
My
wonderful.
last name is Severance. The college has it as Brooks from when I was a student there
Oh,
20
okay.
years ago.
Okay.
So, but I'm Joy Severance, and that just has a link on the back to my Facebook page. And I can upload, if you were looking for some of the things that I've taken footage of, I'll have that on my site shortly.
Okay, yeah, particularly with the camera that you were talking about, so we just see what that the video quality looks like, just so you have an idea.
Okay,
All right. All right, well, I appreciate you coming in. You're welcome to stay, but I think I'm not sure the rest of it would be.
One quick
Thank you. Sure.
Liability. Have you had any accidents like with filming, like your camera dropping out of the blue of the sky and somebody's property?
that has not happened, but I'm speaking with an insurer for just business insurance that will give me $1 million for claims. It's a very low risk business. So $1 million is probably over what I would ever need, but
Yeah, we don't want your camera like
so it's mounted to the
Falling down.
drone.
falling on a horse or something.
Yeah, right. The camera is part of the drone, and the drone would have to go just like completely haywire and take off on its own, I think, for something like that to happen. But cross my fingers that never happens.
Yeah, good question, though.
But I am going to be insured within the next 2 months.
Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you. So John or I, or both of us, will be in touch with you,
Okay,
particularly if we want something sooner rather than later with, winter footage.
sure.
But I think for most of these, we're going to be looking for some greenery to appear
Yeah.
before we start.
Yeah, okay, sounds great.
Yeah. I
Anyone
appreciate
else
it.
have any other questions? Good,
Thank
okay.
you.
Nice
Yeah.
meeting.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much.
And John, I'll reach out to you concerning SCORE, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. My
Okay.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
The next agenda item we have is to discuss act and approve an application for an open member position. So we do have an open member, and Paul Reynolds, who's also the town treasurer, has submitted an application. I did include a copy of his resume in the packet, but I can give that to you if you want to see it. I don't know, Paul, if you want to just, introduce yourself for everybody,
Oh,
so
sure.
everybody knows you, but, and why you're interested in joining.
I'd be happy to. Thank you. My name is Paul Reynolds. I've lived in Dayton for about 8.5 years now. And I'm the treasurer collector of the town. I also serve on the capital outlay committee and the insurance advisory committee and the land use committee. I come from a banking background. I was a mortgage officer and a branch manager of a banking office prior to this. So I've got a lot of experience going to different business mixers, networking events, meeting people in the business community, hearing a wide spectrum of what's going well in the market, what's not. I regularly keep myself up to date on the business and industry and development news. And I believe that I would be able to, I'm motivated in helping the town to grow, but to grow correctly and to grow intelligently and to grow on purpose. Development and business activity is going to take place in the town. It's just a matter of, do we as town officials actively take a role in being good stewards of it and trying to help it and develop in a way that's going to be sustainable for the town, preserve our agricultural and open spaces, while at the same time broadening the tax base and attracting high quality commercial taxpayers. I believe that's a good tightrope to walk, but I've got a mixed experience where it's my first public sector foray. Previously, I've always been in the business world. And because of that, I believe my background positions me well to have had a good relationship with a lot of people in the private sector. And I think that I'd be able to give good perspective. And frankly, I'm motivated to try and bring some high quality taxpayers to Dayton.
Beautiful.
I just had one question for Paul, but but does anybody else have questions first?
No,
No,
let's go ahead.
Lenny? Do you have a question?
No, I don't.
No. I'm sure you've already thought about this because you put in the application, but do you foresee any conflicts between your role as treasurer collector and serving on here? Not that you couldn't always recuse yourself if such a conflict came up, but do you even anticipate that would be an issue?
I don't anticipate that there would be any issues. I've tried to think if there's anything in my roles as treasurer or tax collector that may someday present an issue. I haven't been able to see anything, frankly. And to be honest, I actually think that my role as the collector actually positions me well to actually appreciate they have a unique insight into the contributions that our commercial taxpayers make. So truthfully, no, I don't see any conflict.
I actually see it as a very positive thing. Mr. Reynolds has a background in evaluating properties in the banking industry and has shown in discussions of the area businesses that I've asked him to participate in discussions, making recommendations for expansion, land use, property values, potential problems. He also has a total understanding of the permitting process and the people involved in it, Mr. Agia, Ms. Caledonia, Mrs. Ulat. So I think his addition would be a major plus for us as we reach out to developers and trying to bring people into the community. He also has a very personal relationship with a major developer in Wareham who he has reached out to, and the offer is there if ever we want to reach out to. His name is
Danny Warren.
Mr. Danny
Warren.
Mr. Warren. So Mr. Warren is doing a $30 million revitalization of Wareham waterway. So he does have those connections that would be a major asset to this board.
Does anybody have any other questions? No? So I would entertain a motion that we send a letter to the selectmen asking that they appoint Reynolds to the committee Does anyone want to make that?
I'll make
motion?
that motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
I might add, it is on the agenda for Wednesday's meeting to appoint someone.
Okay,
So if
good.
you could either mail or a
Yep.
letter
got to that this
to
evening.
Karen Brady,
Yeah.
we'll
okay.
include it in the packet.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm sure they'll approve it as well. It's selectmen, I can't speak for them, but I see no reason why they wouldn't. So thank you very much. I appreciate your joining.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Very much looking forward to it.
You're also welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to.
I'd love to.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
The next is to discuss act and approve our FY 24 budget, which we do actually have to submit by the first week of February. So this is our time to do that. And, you know, we have talked that we do have a second year of economic grant funding that we received from Serpide, which will cover, which is calendar grant. It'll be into this year. And we have talked about this year pivoting and starting to look at marketing efforts, putting together our marketing plan. We have also talked about are wanting to improve the business relations that we have with both people in town and people looking to move to town to come in business, just to make Dayton a more business friendly place. We talked about doing that in different ways. And, you know, also this year, the selectmen are going to be doing what I think they're calling zero-based budgeting, which is, you know, everything. It's not like we got $1,000 last year, let's put in $1,000 for this year. We really need to justify what we're asking for, which means we have to think about what we really want to do in fiscal year 2024 and come up with the costs associated with that. And some of that, you know, this year did not play out exactly as we planned. We had planned to spend a lot more money on mailings, which fortunately other people were able to cover for us, like the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce and Serpide, which is why we have money now to do things like the drone videography. But just going to open it up for people to talk about, you know, what they foresee coming up in the year and the costs associated with it, so we can kind of maybe back into where we're going to be for an ask.
One of the things that I thought was a huge hit, and I know we had some co-sponsors, is the expo. Are there any, we should do that again.
Yep.
I didn't hear anything negative about it, so would there be costs, or John, do you feel comfortable with getting enough sponsorships to cover it?
So I wonder, I think last year we put in 250. Is that right, Dan?
It is, the expo was going to proceed without that, but as part of the planning, and this was really so you could secure proper catering and head counts and all that stuff, you were asking people to put in a $10 head ticket price, basically, to attend. So we put in a $250 to support, with the condition that you weigh it for Dayton-based businesses, which you did.
Yes. Yep.
So it's not a requirement that we put to, they could have that without us contributing any money, but if we would like to do something again along the same lines, where maybe the Dayton businesses don't have to pay the cover, it was $250 that we did this year, and we could probably think of something along those lines for next year.
Did we have any support from local businesses at all?
That 18, I think.
Yeah, I
total
think 18,
businesses.
yeah, 18 Dayton businesses came. Yeah, yeah.
And that was our first year doing it, so, you
Yeah.
know.
Family Tree asked me when the next one is.
Oh.
So I think, you know, it was, I think, Dan, it was a great goodwill gesture for the town to sponsor free tickets for the folks that showed up. I think, you know, that also helped, you know, the chamber, from a chamber's perspective of saying, okay, Dayton is serious about doing this, right? So I thought it was a kind of a win-win thing. I would suggest putting the same thing in again this year. If we don't need it, fine. But I think it would be, I think it would be a nice, like, kind of a win-win gesture to do something like that. I know that Chris has slated to do this, again this year. She hasn't committed totally to doing it yet, but it's on the agenda for this year. So, I'll start to, make sure that she understands that the town is definitely interested in making sure that this happens again.
Well, it's at least 250 for next year that we would want to ask for that purpose. Yeah.
I think it's a,
Yeah. The other is, and unfortunately, I was hoping to get a chance to talk to Serpent prior to tonight's meeting, and I sent a couple emails to Lizette. She only replied to me today. Apparently, she's been super busy because she got a promotion at Serpent.
Oh,
So she's now in charge of economic development there. I don't know if she took Grant King's job, or Grant got promoted too, or what, but so she wants to meet, sometime this week to talk about the outcome of the questionnaire and so forth. But unfortunately, I don't have any feedback from her about when they say they can support us in the marketing, what does that mean in dollars cents? And how much do we have to come up with in a dollars cents? I imagine it's not going to be completely free, that we're going to have to put something in for whatever kind of marketing we do, whether it's video, pamphlet based, hiring a consultant to do something, which that sounds expensive, but I just don't have any details like that would, we could put in a general marketing ask of $500, $750, but I don't have anything I can go to the selectmen and say, this is specifically how we plan to use it. Because I haven't, now I might by the time I talk to Serpent, because I think I'm going to meet with Lizette on Thursday.
mhm.
But at this point, I just don't. But I mean, we could currently put a placeholder in there that I could try to flesh out with Lizette. I just need to be able to put something in writing by 1st of February for town budget. So
I think you should, right?
Yeah.
Put something in there.
okay.
And the other thing is, Dan, is that, you and I spent a fair amount of time knocking on every business door, making them aware of that event at the Bristol Aggie. I think our original intent was we were going to try to do a mailing. And I think that the chamber, did a mailing, and they paid for that. Should we put in money for the mailing, or how do you want to get the word out again? And and that's maybe another thing that I can talk to Chris about, is that would the chamber do that mailing? Any thoughts there on that?
Do you want to do any advertising with the Gazette too, in regards to that event?
Yeah.
The ads are expensive.
Yeah, and how well read is the Gazette? Do we know?
I think their online email paper is probably better read than the hard copy. but
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what their circulation is.
just wondering on how effective that is. I haven't had much.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're very effective, in my opinion, as far as
What is that? Yeah.
not many people look at that.
And we make it free advertising anyway, just by the story, we can just give them the story. I mean, the Historical Society has been in the Gazette
Yeah.
several times, just because they told them what's going on. They wrote stories, parts to the.
We made
Historical
the
Society.
by the front page.
Yeah, and they made the front page several times, so.
Oh,
That's
So I
something that
think-
we should have done, Dan, I guess.
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Let's make a note, mental note for this year, invite the Gazette.
I will say that as part of the agenda item we're going to talk about later, which is the online business directory, I have been combing through both the clerk's list of business certificates and the state's list of corporations. We have about 390 businesses in town. About 25 of them are just property tax only, like the utility companies and, some solar farms, that sort of thing. But that's still like 365, 370 actual businesses. And if I've always been told it's about $1,000 to do a general mailing to the town of 2,000 homes. So backing out from 2,000 homes to 400, it's probably like $250 to do a mailing to 375 businesses. That sound about right?
I have no idea what that goes, but
I know with specifically targeted mailings, the per mailer cost is higher than doing a blanket mailer,
Okay,
but I don't think it's astronomically higher. I think you'd still be in the ballpark.
like 250 maybe even a little bit less, like 200 to do 375, 3 mailings.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
reasonable numbers for sure.
so if we thought about like $250 to do a general mailing, one general mailing, and that, you could talk about that being for the Aggie school. It was great that the chamber paid for it last year, but going forward, we should budget that. We plan to probably do our own advertising for that.
Yep.
So $250 for the expo, $250 for the mailing. We did ask for $1,000 this year. I don't know if the town is also very, hard working to have no increases over last year, just for, financial constraint reasons, so that we would have a really hard press to try to exceed $1,000 ask. So we did $250 for mailing, $250 for expo, $500 for advertising, with more details that I can hopefully get about what that advertising means. And we come back with another $1,000 ask.
I think we should try for more.
How much did you spend last?
If we spend $750 with Joy's videography, we'll have used the whole 1,000. Okay, all right. So I'll do it that way. I'll just send an email out after I talk to Lizette and let people know like what's $500 of marketing actually would look like in terms of deliverables.
Now, just so you know how the process works, you're going to submit your preliminary budget to Mike Mullen. You'll have a meeting with Mike Mullen. So at that time, you can get a feel how Michael, if you feel serious that you need more money, run it by him, get feedback from Mike. That usually is a good gauge of how the Board of Selectmen will roll on anything over 1,000.
Mhm.
FinCom is a little uncharted area. Michael discuss budgets with everyone of the Board of Selectmen. He talks budgets with the leadership of FinCom. And then you come before a full committee. That's kind of uncharted areas. So I think you can get a good feel. If you go in with 1,000, you're in safe territory.
Okay,
And then talk to Mike and see what he says.
okay. All right. So I'm gonna ask if somebody wants to make a motion that we propose a $1,000 ask for fiscal 2024 with the breakdowns that we discussed. As I make that motion, it's so I can take that forward to the town.
So moved.
So move. Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Yep.
Unanimous. So I'll submit that to Mike and whoever else I need to. They did send an email out with the instructions for that, so I'll follow those and put that forward. The next item is discuss approach and timeline for a joint DDIC planning board townwide zoning review. In my mind, to do this properly, it's not a quick thing. This is not something that we're gonna sit down once or twice and then throw a proposal together for the June town meeting. This is, a lot of back and forth and discussion and some research, and probably would consume us for a good piece of the calendar year. So this would be something we need to start working on now, but this is not something like we're trying to tee up for like a June town meeting, because the warrants are coming around way too fast for that.
In reviewing the zoning map, I would ask, even though they don't have a full quorum at this time, there are individual members of open space. They also be a part of these discussions.
Okay,
There is some open space land that encircles industrial land. And I'd like to have some discussion with them. And with the planning board about possibilities of uncircling some of that industrial land so we can put it to use. You know, it doesn't do any good to have industrial land completely surrounded by residential zoning or open space, because then they don't have any access to that industrial land. This town does have some industrial land in name only, and it's not practical. One glaring example is on William Street right now, and they've been before the planning board. So I'd like to,
As a preliminary
right.
discussion.
So I'd like to have those discussions and see if we could rezone some of that open space. Knowing well that I believe the law requires a trade-off. You can't just,
I believe it's, you cannot spot zone. So in other words, you can't just take a piece of land, to my understanding, and just rezone that. That's not allowed by the state.
like a single parcel, you can't just pick out
You
one
can't do a
parcel.
single parcel. Gotta do more than one. In order
but can you trade off?
for that. Good question.
The question like Carrie could find out if she doesn't know.
Yeah,
the lawyer.
you'll be able to find that
I
out.
mean, Dayton Industries has a lot of land in this town that they own, that could be industry, or it could be open space, or it could be conservation. And they're probably the biggest landowner in the town, am I correct?
That's very possible, but they're also very hard to deal with.
Well, I'd like to have a meeting with open space planning, and then maybe a subcommittee would reach out to them and talk to them. So,
I like the idea.
Yeah. I did have a question, which maybe I can ask Mike, is the logistics of it, because maybe this all has to happen in an open forum meeting, public. Like, we can't just have conversations with the planning board about, hey, what do you think of this zoning? Even if it's like, multiple, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times that we meet, it probably all has to be on a scheduled agenda, public. And so Mike or Carrie might be able to help us figure out logistically how we do it, because I don't want to go down and have a 1 hour meeting with the planning board on a Wednesday night. I mean, you've got 10 things on your agenda,
I know.
So-
That's,
but maybe Mike or Carrie can figure that out, how we logistically manage this. So that we can have true worth discussions and think about it like a committee almost. And
that's a good idea to just talk to her and
Yeah.
see what she has to say and
Okay.
go from there. But,
it'd be like playing Sim City.
and what?
Sim City.
Sim City.
Have you ever heard of that?
No.
That's an awesome, you create your own community. But by moving,
Sim City.
yes, it's a very popular, I used to play it quite often, video, not a video, it's a computer game.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Joe,
Pre-planning.
come on, Joe, get with it. Come on.
Get with it, okay, yeah.
Pre-planned cities are big in Florida and certain sections of the Midwest. Will you plan out what you're going to do with the land that you have to use?
Yep.
Yeah, it's part of the new world order.
So I'm in favor of that, Dan, and
Okay,
if you need any help from me, I have some bandwidth here and there, so if you need any help, with, whatever.
Okay.
If you ever think I can be helpful, let me know, okay?
all right.
Yeah.
So since we're not taking any action, I'm not really looking for a motion. I'm just gonna tee it up with Mike and Carrie and say practically, how will we proceed with this in terms of the two boards working together over a protracted time of length to have this big discussion about, reviewing, as much as we can, what the zoning and like. Okay. The next is a standing item, discuss any new business interests in town. The last time we met was in November. Only one that I'm aware of, which came to the planning board recently, was I forget the name of the union, but there are new union offices that are going to be opening on William Street. Correct? They were at the planning board a couple weeks ago.
Bluestone?
No, a union. A union, a local, union local.
Oh,
For,
Oh,
I forget the name of the local now and the street address. I forgot to jot it down, but
yeah,
they are going to,
I think name Arujo, David Arujo was the one that came before us.
right,
oh,
They're opening up an office right next to the,
that was
Oh,
okay, okay,
okay.
I forgot the street address, so, yeah. Is that a new build or is that an existing building they're taking
an
over?
existing building.
And
They're
just
renovating it to do that.
Okay,
I don't know much about it, because all they came in was to, do the parking
Right.
and things like that, so. But it's just nice to see that it's gonna be, something is
Right.
gonna come of that,
Yeah.
instead of just being an empty building there for the last 3-4 years or 10 years. I don't know how long it was that way, so.
does anybody else know of any new businesses that have opened up and something last
Now,
night?
I've been looking into that industrial parcel in town, and it doesn't look very promising
Which one is that?
because of the wetlands.
Trevi Icos? That one or another one?
One over here on
Old Somerset, oh, I see. That's about 1.5 acres, 2 acres.
Oh, no, that's probably all of 8 acres.
Oh, okay,
it
There,
goes back.
oh, okay,
but looking at the hydrology of the land, it looks like it's mostly wet.
Is that the parcel that's got the little two-family house on it?
That's,
It's an 11 acre piece. Yeah.
they will probably get a house lot out of it, but I think that's about all they're gonna get.
Yeah, I think that two-family needs work too, I think.
Oh, no, that needs to be knocked down and rebuilt. That's what I would do, but what they're gonna do, I don't know. Had a lot of asbestos, I think he already removed the asbestos. And now he's actually planning, he did it all to get the house torn down and start from there.
No, but is that zoned? It is.
It's zoned industrial, but there was a house on there, so he's grandfathered in.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But the rest of the land, I actually thought we could possibly get a building in there to run a factory or run something. But I got another call this week. Somebody had the idea of putting 1 or 2 buildings. And they gave me specific sizes of it of 175 by 200 on 2 buildings, or 400 by 200, 20 feet high. And I said, well, it's zoned accordingly, so it should be no issues. But then I went to see conservation. Conservation was telling me, said, it hasn't been flagged. I'm just going by what I see here on the computer. I don't think that they're gonna be able to do that because you have to be 200 feet away from the river. The land is 400 and some odd feet at one point. So it only leaves at the widest point of the land, it's 400 and some odd feet. But there's areas that it's only like 280, 275. So this really, to do something like that, it's not gonna really work.
Is it bigger than an acre?
It's approximately 8 to 10 acres there.
So that would also involve stormwater.
Absolutely.
That's,
But getting to the textile business that we
right.
originally started this with.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're still looking for a place.
he may be, but
Okay.
he's not doing much
Okay.
about it. As soon as the interest rates went up, he got nervous.
I see.
So I don't think it's.
There is another business that's looking to relocate as well.
Out of the mill area.
Very,
The one that I just got a call, a random call. On
this
that,
is a neighbor of the textile business.
I think that one there is, it's gonna be a pretty tough road to get anything done there.
Okay. So,
That's be something else.
If they were willing to have the land flagged. I think that would give us a yay or a nay. On that, but I don't think they've done any of that.
This would be the owners requesting to have it flagged,
The owners,
Right.
if they flagged it,
right?
then we would know for sure. But according to Lisa, she doesn't seem to think, looking at the computer, what the soil looks like. I guess they have that on the computer. And it doesn't look good. So,
now, a while back, we had an individual come before this board in regards to a building of a boat
Yep.
factory down at Shaw's Boatyard. Do we know where they're at
Mhm.
in regards?
I talked to him end of October. He was very interested, still is very interested, but was unable to negotiate a sale with the current boatyard
Oh.
owner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's not happening right now. I think he would, like he said, when I talked to him, it's like, I still think it's great. I'd love to come, but I have been unable to reach an agreement. So
Oh, okay.
I wonder if there was something that could kind of bring it back up alive from Charles Boatyard.
I don't know whether it was just a price dispute or whether it was something else. I had no idea.
It's kind of odd that they would have had a really good conversation and then all of a sudden out of the blue disappeared. What was the reason
Would
behind
your
that?
vice chair be of some help? They're good friends. He's good friends with the owner of that property.
Then why not?
We could talk to him.
Sure,
Okay.
anything.
The next under old business, I have discussed the posting of the Dayton local business directory on the town website. So I have been working with Leanne Kerwin. She's been very helpful with the software that the town uses and has created a page for us. I've got permission to it. I've experimented with it. I'm having a few kinks with it, so I'll get to reach out to Leanne this week. So it's not quite ready to go live. But I did include in the package a sample of, given the software, what exactly it would look like. So it has a kind of a standard look and feel for the down at the bottom there. You can see, like, you would pick on the category. I just made up an example for Test ABC as the name of a company that's an alpaca farmer. But it almost looks like a yellow page. You could pick plumbers, electricians, HVAC, come up with the various Dayton businesses. We had agreed at the last meeting that, the ones that are listed are all those which are either have a business certificate from the town that's in good standing, or are registered with the state as a corporation, doing business in Dayton. And actually, my preparing to do this is how I got to that 390 counts of businesses, because I started merging those two lists and cleaning them up and so forth. And in preparation for this, because when we do go live, so I think we could get it up and running in a couple of weeks, actually. I didn't want it to go live and it just be blank when people go there. I wanted to have some businesses out there. At the same time, I didn't want to like start approaching businesses and like talk to one but not another, and that were competitors, and they feel slighted. So I picked a couple categories where I thought I could, reasonably reach everybody in that category. So for example, I targeted, let's see. Restaurants, banks, liquor stores, pizza parlors, veterinarians, dentists, farm stands. And that gave me something like a good 20 places. And this past week, I wrote around to all of them, asked them if they'd like to be listed, no charge, free advertising. Jonathan and I were met with some skepticism, some like complaints the last time we went around the businesses when we were doing the talk. You couldn't believe how overjoyed these people were.
Awesome.
They were offering me free pizza, food. You want something off the shelf, grab it. I also went around to all the convenience stores. A lot of them, unfortunately, I wasn't able to reach the decision maker, like the banks, even the veterinarians. Like they said, I think it's a great idea. I'm sure we're going to say yes. I just have to talk to X. So for the veterinarians, for example, it was the front office staff I spoke to. I didn't talk to the doctor. But they gave all of them our card so they can get back to me with what they'd like, if they'd like to be listed, how they like to. I'm hoping that when we go live, there's a good 20, 25 businesses there day one. And then we can start promoting it and,
They can be added.
and they can be added on. Yeah. I
Beautiful.
also include, go ahead, sorry.
No, I said beautiful. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I did in the second page, kind of came up with a list of yellow page categories. Some of these are just standards. I just like queried what's the most common. Some of these I added because I went through all the Dayton businesses and saw what are the kinds of things that are outliers and threw them in there, but we can add more, if people can be listed in more than one category. Very easy to do. Oh, that's a typo.
I know. I
Yeah,
just,
okay. Web design, yeah, I did fix that, I think. But people can list their name, as little or as much information as they want, but potentially name, address, phone number, email, website link, a brief description of their business. So one of the pizza places in town has a standing special. Said, oh, can you put that special in there? Like, X number of pizza is large, you get this free. So like, I guess I can throw that in there as your description. That's what your description is. That's your description. So
And we should get a pizza for every meeting we have.
he was willing to give them to me right then and there. So
Just quick question, Dan. I was looking at the list and the taxi category. Would you maybe put taxi / transportation? Because I'm thinking taxis are kind of, I don't know. Have you seen a yellow cab lately? I haven't seen one lately.
Okay.
But maybe
Uber is
transportation.
yeah,
who's putting them out of business?
Yep.
yeah, I actually am not aware of any Dayton businesses that would fall into that category. Anyway, it's just like a common one, but yeah, I can change that. So.
Okay. Yep.
So that's kind of an update. We had already approved this in previous meetings. I'm just still working with Leanne to get it sorted out. And I thought once we do, we had said we'd start promoting it on. I want to talk to Mike about having it go on, the town website as a news blurb. Maybe we could talk to the Taunton Gazette. I don't know if it's a big enough story for them. And then just push it on social media and say, if you're interested, here's the contact the DDIC and here's their address. I did meet with Mark Pacheco, the town clerk, and worked out the changes he's going to make to the business certificate form that would capture this information. His only concern was that he have on record that people specifically opted in, that we just didn't just add them. He's just concerned about, although it's public record, he's concerned about the information that he gets being used in other ways. So he said, as long as they opt in and I have a record that they opted in, that's fine. So, and so we talked about the logistics of how it would work, because people only register every 4 years.
Right.
There's some places that may have just set up their business certificate last year. He's not going to see them for 3 years. But in the meantime, do they have to go back and see him? Can they just tell me? Can I just send them the form and they check it off and I file it with Mark, which is what we can do. Just try to make it as easy for the businesses as possible. And for corporations, as long as they're on file with the state, which we have access to, it's public, I can just verify that and feel free to list them. So, because Mark doesn't even track those, so.
Great.
Anybody have any questions about this or?
Thanks, Dan. Great job.
Yeah.
Did we get any more calls on that old nursing home up the road there?
No,
Nothing at all.
I met with Cooperative Productions. They met with those people. It doesn't meet their needs. So we could try.
I would just rather see a business there than see a couple of families or something like that.
You know the owner?
But I don't know him personally. I can get in touch with them if that's what you.
Well, no, I'm trying to create a pipeline so you do know how to contact him.
Yes.
How it happened with Cooperative Productions, I let the executive director know when he reached out to that person. But if you were going to spotlight that and try to recruit businesses, you would be able to help me with that, correct?
Yeah.
Because, there are a couple other agencies that are pretty big in this area beside Co-op.
Okay.
BAMSI, which is one of the largest in the state, and they have programs in the Taunton Dayton area. And of course, the other one out of Fall River is People Incorporated. So Dayton has been very supportive of businesses that have worked with people with disabilities. Between the efforts of town officials, including John Gale, we were spotlighted by the governor's office, Governor Baker's office, for Dayton being very friendly to people with disabilities and businesses that serve people with disabilities. So that facility is geared towards the health industry, towards people with disabilities. I'm just wondering if we or this group could try to recruit, reach out to places like businesses like BAMSI or People Incorporated, see if they can work something out, or even Life Care, see if they'd be interested in a small facility. On the other side, I know from the work that I do in the field that acquired brain injury and the people with disabilities over 22 is a growing population. And there is a need, DDS has a big need in facilities. So the idea is matching the right facility with the need of an agency.
The thing that I saw, or that I talked to them, is the parking over there
Right.
is an issue.
That's what
And
Cooperative
the
Productions, one of the reasons.
handicap accessibility, if they were to add on, it would be an issue. They would have to throw an elevator in. And the septic system on that property takes up the majority of the backyard, although it's 2 acres. But the septic system just takes up the majority of it, and I'm not really sure if they can actually put parking space on top of it, because I don't know how deep it is. There is certain restrictions on that.
Sewer comes to Center Street.
No.
correct? It doesn't.
Does not. It's
Right.
on 138, period.
Right, but it passes Center Street, correct?
Yes,
How long is Center Street?
about 2 miles.
2 miles. So we're talking about around $3 million if sewer were to go down there.
That I couldn't answer you. Are you coming across some money?
Boy, there is a gentleman who was very helpful to us recently, Jake Oshensklash, who helped Dayton secure $2.75 million for a bridge.
Which bridge is this?
The Pleasant Street Cobb Brook Bridge, not the big Pleasant Street Bridge, the smaller bridge.
Oh, Copbrook, okay.
Yes. So, and he is willing to go to bat for us for the next budget cycle. A year ago, he had, at the urging of Dr. Segoffis, had met with us about expanding sewage into Dayton. And in our studies, the 2 areas that seemed the most attractive was an extension on Route 44 to a potential business area and Center Street. The 138 connection is attractive to some, but very expensive because of the connection.
Well, it's attractive to not many,
Correct. On 130.
and it's the most expensive one.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right. So, the Center Street, I haven't polled the people on Center Street how they feel about it. But it obviously, in the case of the nursing home, would increase the value of that property and be more likely for a sale and to get a business going there again.
Knowing on how high the water table is all of Center Street, just
Right.
about. All these properties would increase in value.
Right.
uh,
So it would
if
be
that
a
ever
benefit.
happened.
The Route 44, I do know of a developer and 2 landowners who are really interested in sewer tie-in. The city of Taunton is willing to help us make that happen. There are a couple issues to work out, which that joint meeting with planning would be a great place to have that discussion. So I'd be curious, and at that point, if there was serious interest, I'd also invite Mr. Mariano into the meeting. He's very interested in developing down there. If we can work out some of the zoning issues,
The Mariano, that's
Bill
the guy
Mariano.
right before Zeke's.
correct? So,
And were you here? He joined us that time with,
Yeah,
he
he met.
came here
met
along with the owner.
Yes.
He said that a couple months ago.
So it's potential and it's down the road, but there'd be a lot of partnerships that would need to be created. And getting the community to be behind it. It would be a major project, obviously.
Anytime it comes to dealing with people,
Well, that's what we do. It's called public service, right?
I have a question. Is this where Serpent's work on our economic development plan will help us determine where we should focus? Like, so, where does Dayton get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of our investment in infrastructure, right? And
Yeah.
our consideration of where we should consider rezoning and that sort of thing, right? I mean, isn't that work that we're doing with the Zeth really gonna
Yeah.
help inform us on that, right?
That's the idea. yes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
When I don't
that's
know
good.
what kind of agreement you have with Lizette. But anytime we have these discussions and probably if we have this joint meeting with the planning board, she should probably be there as well, if she can.
Yeah, and Mike has the contract, I haven't seen it. There are some restrictions on like how many times you can attend a meeting, that kind of thing, because all of those eat into costs of like the grant that we received. So there are some things like they'll meet with us X number of times a year and all that kind of thing, because if we go beyond that, we start eating away at meeting with them and they fewer deliverables because, we're spending our money talking and not, having them produce something for us.
just talking.
Yeah, just
Not
talk. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't be how we decide the best way to proceed, but, there's some language in there around all of that, because we are going through the money as we talk to them, so.
Now, as we are preparing our budget, should we put any money for additional consulting fees from Serpent? Is that something this board would be interested in doing?
Right,
Um,
Dan, you're gonna talk to Lizeth this week, right?
Well, yeah, we have funding as a grant. We received a funding grant for the calendar year, for this upcoming calendar year.
Right.
I can ask, I don't even know what the kind of money is, like, what kinds of dollars are we talking about?
Okay.
I mean, I can ask Mike, what kind of dollars are we talking about if we were to ask to set money aside to work with Serpent on?
It's just that I've been having some discussions. And I'm going to talk about one of them this evening with some zoning changes. Having someone from Serpent involved in planning that out would be very, very helpful. So I see what she's doing as increasing the amount of time, if possible, with us. You mentioned one area you had an interest in. And when we get to that, is it on the C?
Yeah,
I'll speak more about another zoning change that I'm going to be advocating for. And obviously, they've done the studies. They are the experts in urban planning. So her input would be very valuable.
okay.
Do they normally charge us for visiting with us?
Serpent? Technically, yes, they actually gave us a grant, and the grant was for X number of hours in time and deliverables.
Okay,
But as they work with us, it's like depleting the grant because, so technically we are,
keep seating at it.
keep seeding out because they basically give us their time. And that's how we want to use the time is up to us, but it's a finite amount, so.
You
Okay,
know,
now, don't they have a yearly fee?
That the town pays, you mean? Or
I'm sorry?
that the town pays, you mean? Or-
Yes,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I think so.
Jeff is our circuit rep, right? The town circuit rep is Jeff.
Right, Jeff.
Okay.
You would know. But I don't believe so.
There was something about some fee that was,
Maybe for additional consulting fee.
no, I
Additional
think
consulting work.
it's a yearly thing. But I'm not sure
Right.
if it's the
Well,
town that pays that. Or because we talked about it at the planning board. A few years back that to see if we needed to participate in that ourselves. And though it came out, and don't hold me to this, but I thought that. No, we don't have to because the selectman's office was already paying that.
Oh, I see.
I'll ask Mike.
So that we didn't have to participate in
Okay.
it, but. But I'm not 100% sure of the details. There's something like that. But of course, my age, I remember one thing and then.
No, I'll ask.
The next item on the agenda was to discuss a site visit to 1938 Winthrop Street, which is the current Treviicos. So I know Joe had talked to the conservation agent. John and I went down and also talked to her just to get information. So John's seen this map, so I just have a printout copy, and Joe, this might be, you guys want to share that? This is what it currently looks like, that site. So you can see down on the right-hand side where it says current buildings. That and the little strip along 44 is where the current entrance is to the site and where their current building is. The site all in is 38 acres. So if you follow the red lines, you can see it kind of bears to the left and then opens up. But everything within the green, like it has dark red, dark green lines marking off areas. That's all wetland area and not really developable. And so you can see, like you go to the left, there's a small choke point where you have to navigate through just to get access to the more interior site where you have some more land. So also, at least where the current area is, it's all granite rock. It's not like you're gonna put a sewer up there or something too very easily, kind of thing. So all in all, it's not an ideal site for development, and you can see why the current owners kind of just stuck to the smart parcel right along the entrance to Route 44 for where they have the lot. So I mean, if Joe, John, you still want to go up there and walk the site, we could still talk to the owners. But it's really not as useful, which I think you already knew for a bit. More than John and I did. It's not really ideal for business.
I sat with Lisa for a little bit.
Yeah.
She's very, very knowledgeable of what she's doing. And
Yeah.
She explained all of these dark spots here.
Yeah.
Which they could actually have increased. From
True.
what's on this map.
That's also true.
because The longer it stays that way, the more it could spread. And it's not, brooks are not cleaned these days. They don't even allow them to be cleaned as far as I'm concerned. And what happens is it just starts to spread out further, So this area here, as you put it out, just perfect wording, it chokes at this point.
Yeah,
But doesn't mean that you can't get by it.
It
You
just-
can,
more expensive. Yeah.
yes, but
To put a road in, you're saying?
the other thing that makes me nervous is this entrance here was how contaminated is it?
Yeah, you mentioned that the last time. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's heavy equipment that they put there.
right.
A lot of oil could have gotten into the ground. I don't know, maybe they're extra careful on that and I don't want to be,
Now the land is for sale?
I don't know, but I think
They're
it might.
pulling out this year. I don't know how soon after that means the land goes up for sale, but John actually spoke to them when we were talking about went up there to advertise for the business expo, and that was the information they gave them. So within a year and a half, they will probably be up for sale. So
Right. And it just looked like such a huge piece of industrial property. I was getting all excited.
Sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, the place is either loaded with ledge or it's loaded with wetlands.
Well, the ledge can be blown up and you can do a lot of things with ledge. I mean, we had one just up the road from there that Lopes loved it because he created and made a lot of money off of it. So, I mean, that's not to say that this can't happen here,
Right.
as long as it doesn't interfere with the condominiums that are to its right and they go and blow over there. What's gonna happen to that? Whoops.
Which
So
have
one of-
sewer running
one of
that
the
far
other-
for those condominiums, right?
Right.
No, I
Those
don't,
sewer-
no?
I
those
don't believe
condos
so.
don't. Oh, I thought they
So
did
it ends
right before
Prior
that.
to it, I think,
at,
I, please don't
Golf
hold me
course?
to that, but I think the sewer is at the entrance of where those apartments just went in,
Mhm.
which is in Taunton,
Biscuits, yeah,
Chris Coit's place.
okay.
I think that's where the sewer ends
Ends.
at, that I know of, but I'm not
Alright.
100% sure.
Still not too
I-
far from this site, but this site doesn't look like the best site to be, unless you want a restaurant on a hill kind of thing.
Well, they'll probably get some good views out
Yeah.
of there, you never know.
Yep.
I don't know about the sewer there. I don't know exactly where it's at or anything like that. But that's easy to find out.
See, the thing is very short, we're gonna lose tax revenue.
That's another thing that I would like to. I think most boards in Dayton need a lesson from the tax collector, the tax assessor. How are they assessing properties? Because we have the one that's trying to put in a temporary thing and sawmill down the road. I want to put a trailer, and then over the trailer, put a roof there. Now, what's the advantage of Dayton allowing something like that other than having an eyesore there?
Right.
Can that be taxed? Because it's not a permanent structure. Today I learned that a permanent structure is something that's gonna be there for a year or more. But if it's not there for a year, I mean, they can take it from here and put it over here.
Right,
We decided to move it. They don't have to pay taxes. What's the advantage of the town of Dayton allowing them to doing that?
No.
Other than creating an eyesore.
right,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Mhm.
So I think we should get, as a board, an education from the assessor's office to kind of give us some guidance on how we should proceed, if that's the way, if we can even do that. Am I making any sense here?
yeah, you, sure.
John, I didn't hear you say anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I mean, to me, you're making sense. I mean, the other thing I think considering is that, does the person want to be a good neighbor, right? I mean, does that person, want to, I mean, be a good, citizen, right? And maybe do the right thing, you know what I mean? Which is
Right.
build a permanent structure instead of throwing something up that,
But,
move around.
Another issue is that property there is always, I've been in Dayton for 35 years. That's always been an eyesore, as far as I'm concerned. The sawmill was just about stopping when I moved into town. They may have ran that for a few more years but very little. But that whole area there was just, they put everything and anything on it. You know, with chips, you name it, it was there, old machinery and stuff. And I was hoping that somebody would have come in and put something decent there. And it seems like it's not happening, you know, and that's what's. The guy next door has got a similar situation, but at least it's 100 or 150, 200 feet off the road. It's not as bad. These guys want to come in and put it in 45 feet off the edge of the road. Well, you know, it's probably a 20-foot structure that's gonna be there. It's with 2 long trailers on either side. And I'm not really happy about it. But I don't know that we can say yay or nay. It's some of these things are, you have to know before you decide what to do. You know what I'm saying? But in order for us to make an educated thing, we need to know is what's the advantage? Because in my opinion, the reason why I was elected is to work on behalf of the town, not with anything, following the rules of the town. The zoning bylaws or whatever you have you. And I just also think that we should be educated on that end of it to try to make, you know, please guide me on that if you feel that I'm off the deep end on this, you know, it's
I would love to know, you know, that information as well.
Mhm. I'm wondering, Paul, if you and Stephanie could run a workshop on that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I will link up with the assessors and I will have some information in advance of.
And should we open it up to the public?
No, you're gonna focusing on commercial, right? Not residential.
Well, I don't know. That's,
I also know that there's a lot of residential that are running businesses off their property.
Right,
that's what I was
That's
gonna
another
say.
story. So
We have, I did go stop by the assessor's office and I said, can you give me a list of, not property taxes, but just like the list of town, businesses in the town that are paying taxes. So, you know, if you own a piece of industrial property, which you don't have anything on it, yeah, you're paying taxes, but it's not a business going. But just so they gave me a list of 102 properties.
102.
wow.
I've identified 390.
I'm sorry.
I've identified 390 businesses in town and they gave me a list of 102 assessed businesses.
Wow.
So the rest are 99.9%, you know, home-based. And maybe that business is somebody's laptop on their dining room table running software development, which is fine. I mean, you're not going to tax that. But I know John said Bridgewater went through something very similar and because of financial constraints said, you know what, we really need, those are businesses, they're legitimate. There's tax revenue there and they did try to, you know, go and pursue that.
Yes.
So I don't know how much of this could be pursued and how much is logical to be pursued, but it's the same question. It's like, that's a big gap, you know?
Yes.
280 businesses that just off the records.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah.
And I think having something like I just talked about brought to our attention, you know, when we are making decisions on that. Okay. I think we should be able to have a choice. If you want to run a business out of there, you're either going to pay taxes on what you want to put in, or you're going to have to put a building up that's permanent, that you're going to be paying the taxes or not. I hate to be saying this because it's a serious issue. It could be for me. I mean, I could be run out of town tomorrow, you know?
We'll all be run out of town.
You never
You
know.
know, the other thing, I'm wondering, should Jimmy Aguirre be involved? Because he is the enforcement officer when you talk about a business and how it conducts itself in the town.
I think this should be something that it should be all the boards involved in this. Zoning, planning, this board,
Conservation.
conservation, everyone.
Because they impact conservation, they impact business.
Yeah.
That they do.
I think every board impacts
Mhm.
in one way or another, you know, and. I mean, I for one, I've been running my business, I ran my business. Off my house for years, you know, and nobody ever questioned me. So, keep going. Now I'm retired.
There's a 20-year clawback.
Oh, it is?
All right, I'm just gonna go on, unless you had something you wanted to add.
Well, it's just, it says here, discuss site visit. Were you planning on doing a visit or?
Do you, I mean, knowing what we know now, to John shaking his head, no, it's
No?
kind of like, no, we're not gonna.
Okay.
We know what we need to know.
I don't think.
All right, okay, all right. Next item was discuss suggested revisions to the town home occupation zoning bylaws. So we had talked last time about some proposals to amend and permit more home-based businesses, things that we know exist today that appear to be successful, not getting complaints, going about their business, but are technically not allowed under the bylaws. And whether we should, since, you know, they seem to be doing okay, do we really want to still make them illegal under the bylaws, or do we want to look at that and perhaps make some adjustments to allow some things? So at the last meeting, you gave me permission to discuss it with some town officials like building commissioner, Carrie, Mike, et cetera. And initially I just started approaching each of them, and then Mike suggested that the best approach, because I'd be getting kind of siloed opinions back, is to have an actual discussion with everybody. So he put me on the agenda for this month's, what's called their PAC meeting. So it's actually Wednesday. I'll be attending, and it's, I think it's a committee that Mike put together to try to help things that are kind of stuck between committees, like they're just not progressing because they just keep, you know, falling through the cracks, and they just go back to the same committee, or like conservation and between conservation and building and planning, and they just get in this loop. So Mike put together this group of people to meet every month about everything that's before any of the boards in town, and just get their statuses and can we help them in any way if they're kind of stuck. So all those players will be at that meeting. So he asked me to attend. And the point of attending would just be get their feedback. Is this a horrible idea? You know, can we tweak it to make it a better idea? To make this worthwhile?
I think it's a learning process.
Yeah.
For you, and then it'll be for us.
Yeah.
Because you will bring back whatever you bring back. It's good, it's good. If it's no good, then it's no good. But if we don't do it, we don't know.
Right.
I mean, I think we're all learning. And I think that is a big step to making decisions going forward. That's my view of it, you know, so.
Are these home-based businesses that are operating in residential zoned areas that are kind of in the gray area, so to speak, or not even
Yeah.
necessarily in the gray, but just not getting any complaints?
Yeah, I mean, the town does have bylaws now for home-based businesses, some by right businesses, some special permit businesses. And there are some that just are period not allowed, like nail salons, beauty parlors, auto service places, any kind of retail. But, you know, as we talked in our previous meetings, most of us could name places in town that are auto service and beauty parlors, and they're all operating out of their homes. And unless, you know, the neighbors are really upset, they're just, and I'm not aware of like people coming down and
Nobody
complaining to,
knows.
nobody knows, seems to be okay. But the two things, one is anybody operating a business, even a small one, they're putting money into it. And if you're putting money into something that's technically shouldn't be there, that means in theory, you piss off your neighbor, they complain, you're down, you're out of business tomorrow because suddenly the town says, sorry, you can't do that. I know you've been doing it, but now your neighbor's all upset about traffic or something. The second is, which I've said here several times, is somebody came to me and said, I can name you half a dozen auto body repair shops in this town operating out of their garage. I'd like to do it too. But my neighbor would be at the selectmen's board every single day complaining about me. And I'm not going to get away with it, but everybody else does. And he's not looking to get the other people in trouble. He's just like, I'd like the same consideration, you know? So that's kind of was the genesis for our, really looking at it.
Mhm.
I almost would be interested if somebody who wanted to kind of come out of the shadows in that regard, so to speak, might be willing to do so in exchange for having a portion of their residential property reclassified as personal property to the extent that they're declaring it on their tax returns as a home-based business. Because presumably a lot of these people are claiming their home offices and they're getting a deduction, they're getting a break on their
Yeah.
taxes. So if they're using their home, I don't want to be as strongly as calling it illegally, but it was essentially, outside of the bylaw. And they're getting a tax break on it for making money. I think that perhaps somebody that wants to come out of the shadows in that regard, it might be a sign of good faith if they were to do something like provide us that schedule from their tax return, and then we could reclassify a portion of that property as personal property and then kind of make the town whole. And as long as they're otherwise being a good neighbor and not having any issues, that might be worth examining.
I own the property on the corner here. And Woody ran his barber shop out of there for 25 years. And so I had to pay the town because Woody was there, I think it was $300 or $400. I don't know if that's actually changed. I should look into that because it's not, I don't have any commercial business running out of there. But I was paying that extra money just because Woody was there, and which is, I'm fine with it. The whole point is, should that go in for everyone that's doing that, But we have to be very careful because if they come in and say, okay, yes, but I'm willing to pay commercial as long as my property is zoned accordingly.
I don't know if it's,
You understand where I'm coming from?
Right.
Because it is zoned residential. Why are we charging them more taxes or commercial taxes when the property is not zoned commercial?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like. So
And if
if the
you
solar
do-
farms on residential property, we charge them personal property tax. Verizon owns poles all over town, charges them personal property taxes, cut through
Is
residential
it
neighborhoods.
personal property or commercial tax?
I think Verizon just like the utility companies pay us a fair amount of money
Right.
for,
in lieu of.
yeah, a tax money, commercial property tax money.
All of these things, all the boards in town should have that knowledge so that we know when we're making decisions. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion, and
Good idea for a workshop.
Yeah.
Maybe have Jimmy Agar involved. What he uses to get into the decision-making process of enforcement of the bylaws, because he is the bylaw enforcement officer.
Excuse me, Dan, I think the other issue, if I remember when you brought this topic up at a previous meeting, is that the example that sticks in my mind is that the town, if they have knowingly allowed this to happen, that then the bylaw becomes unenforceable. Right? Isn't that the issue? Is that if the town has allowed it to happen knowingly, then they can't really
Well,
enforce it.
I think it can be can be put a little different, that the town didn't know.
Well, that's the question. Did we actually know all along? It's just like, nobody's complaining. We just let it, and it goes on year after year. At some point, somebody says, I'm gonna do it. Even if you tell me I'm not, you have a long history of ignoring it, so it's meaningless. I did ask Carrie if she could check with the attorney, if that's a true statement. I mean,
Okay.
that would be kind of my understanding of how it would work. She's not had an opportunity to do that, because I asked her again recently, so that's not a legal opinion, but I think it's a sensible.
It's a sticky opinion,
Yeah.
yes. Very sticky.
Inconsistent application of a bylaw opens the town up for liability.
Yeah, yeah.
I make you to do something, I allow Rafa to do whatever he wants, you're gonna sue me.
Well, see, those are all of those things. It shouldn't be one board that knows about it. Or two boards that know about it. I think every board should know about it.
Did you want to bring up your other zoning?
Thank you.
Yeah.
15 years ago, Selectman at the time, Bob Perry, had a concern. And he was spot on. The development was coming to Dayton in a big way. And as we've heard recently, with the talk of a major 40B in Tremont Street, Chase Street area, Strawberry Field, the possibility of Forest Hills, the development, potential development behind Council Oak Way. It's more than just in the pre-planning stages. They've already had some discussions with the water district. He wanted one way to limit development or the number of houses that came into the town was through the creation of a bylaw that increased the lot size to an acre. Currently, it's approximately a half an acre. So hypothetically, if you made it an acre, you would cut down the number of houses by half. What I'm looking for at this point, before I attempt or meet with Mr. Perry to bring that bylaw request back up through a petition at town meeting via the warrant process, is how this board would view that favorably, or the concerns and objections that you may have in regards to it.
As someone that's been a builder for a few years in town, I don't think that's gonna make any difference at all, because you are looking at an increase of about 43,560 is 1 acre. And right now you can build on 35,000 square feet. So you're looking at about 8,000 square feet difference that you're adding on to that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So in other words, you can build now on a house lot that's 35,000 square feet with 175 feet of frontage,
Right.
providing that you have water on the street. Okay, if you don't,
Well,
you have to have a well, but the issue is if you don't have a well, you don't have water on the street, it jumps to 250 square feet. But the same size lot.
So the house sits much further back. Potentially, yeah.
It just changes the frontage. I think if we were to increase the frontage that's when a lot of people back out because that's road expense.
That makes sense.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So,
A quick question on that, Lenny, would that be if you were thinking about proposing that, how would that affect the current developments that are like in motion, right?
and it would not change that at all.
Okay,
They're already in motion. We have to grandfather that.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my understanding. As long as they had started the process.
Correct. But a lot of them are coming in with conservation subdivisions.
So there is another, and this is something that Serpent is planning to help the town with, and the open space committee, because I am on open space as well. So we plan to work with Serpent in rewriting the conservation bylaws to see if they're really in the best interest of the town as written now. I don't have all the details. Kevin Smith has been talking with Serpent, but he's lining up a meeting with them and to see if they would help us really deep dive into our conservation bylaws. And are there any things we can do differently that would perhaps, better serve the town than the way they're written currently?
I didn't think that the conservation, I thought it was a state. It was regulated by the state and
I just know that there's a meeting being set up to look at that. So perhaps we have some flexibility. Maybe it's not tremendous, but I can certainly let you know as I get more information on that, how that progresses.
I didn't think conservation was anything that you could do that. I could see zoning, the zoning board and the planning board. Yes, things like that, but the conservation, I thought it was a state regulated thing. That's why every time you submit something that's big, it has to go to DEP to approve or not approve.
Well, it's not conservation as in like wetlands, conservation as like like the X number of lots, smaller lots in a small separated area. What do
A
you-
conservation subdivision.
Conservation subdivision,
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
so the conservation subdivision bylaws will be
Okay.
examined.
Even still, I think. Because conservation subdivision, you can go down very, very low to like 5,000 square foot lots.
Currently,
And that's the one that I
maybe those are the kinds of details that we have flexibility on that we're going to look at now.
Now, getting back to the acre idea. Rehoboth went with an acre and a half. Would that be more evident?
Yeah. And 200 feet of frontage. That's what Rehoboth is at. I think they're actually are at 2 acres.
Are they now? Okay.
Don't
So-
hold me to that, but I think that's what it is.
So
But
Rehoboth,
they are 200 feet of frontage. See, the roads are so expensive now to put in that the minute you increase the frontage, that means that they gotta put 200 feet of road to pass that lot. You know what I'm saying?
If you had 200 feet of frontage and say granite curbing or something like that, I'd really take a
Yeah, the
massive.
granite curbing is throughout, it's usually around the catch basins
Okay,
or the entrance per se, because that's where the trucks.
okay, where like we normally would do like an asphalt berm type.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's not too expensive, but the road itself, the drainage and all of that, it's huge money. I mean, there's developments around that have gone as far as $1,000 a foot, you know?
That's a really good.
So that decreases the profit on that and usually shies people away from doing that.
Thank you very much.
I did have on here discuss separate proposals, but in lieu of, my being able to catch with Lizette before this meeting, I don't really have any updates other than that. I will be meeting with her later this week, probably Thursday. I don't have any correspondence. Public input, we do not have anyone here to join us this evening. Approval of the minutes, I did submit the minutes for November 28th. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at them. If somebody would like to make a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Set our next meeting, so continuing with the fourth Monday, our next meeting date would be February 27th at 6 p.m. Someone want to make actually, most boards don't do a motion and set the meeting date every time. It's like the planning board has their whole year planned out, right?
Yes, but we still, at the beginning of every meeting,
You
we,
officially set what the next meeting is.
Yes.
Okay. So does somebody want to make a motion that our next meeting would be February 27th at 6 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
and a second?
I'll second it.
You're just 2 seconds behind Rafa. Sorry, John.
Oh, that's fine.
He
You
keeps
know,
beating you.
Have you seen that commercial about, oh, you've got lag?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Somebody want to second it? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned at 8:03. Thank you. We're signing off. Good night, Cable.
Yep, thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to
John.
zoom in. Yep,
Sure. Thank you.
yep, bye-bye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.